Welcome to the channel and a look at my latest purchase. I've been looking for this brand of laptop for a long time. They don't necessarily come up all that often in the UK. The brand is Digital, so DEC or Digital Equipment Corporation, and wasn't really common here. And I think actually this one belonged to a employee of DEC. The bag will need a bit of cleaning, but it's in very good condition. It obviously was used. I've got a power supply. That's always a bit of a treat, having a PSU with it. And again, well used, but in very good condition. So this is 16.2 volts, 2.6 amps, 34 watts. So 34 watts, that's not a lot for a PC, is it? But it was fine then. And let's look in the main section. And here we go. A couple of things of interest. What have we got in the pouch? Ooh, 2 cards. Got wireless. No, it's not. It's Ethernet. It does imply wireless there, but I don't think it is. It's 2 connections. And of course a 28K modem, so very of the time. And also of the time, you might remember a company called Nice Day, which did lots of very fun branded stationery, a bit like this. So we've actually got 2 cleaning wipes. Keep those. And here we have the laptop itself. So let's put the bag to one side. And again, this has been stored for a while. You can kind of tell, but it's in very good condition, I would say. Go straight ahead, look inside. Very exciting. And here we go. Look at that. That's fantastic. Let me get something to point with. So what do we have? We've got a Digital HiNote VP, Vice President model maybe. Oh, look at this. Very exciting. So we have a small LCD up the side. This is a Pentium processor, actually MMX, designed for Windows 95. So we're talking, well, I think this is probably past 1995, but obviously it didn't get the Windows 98 label. We'll probably go for a 97, 98 year, I think. What's the keyboard? Just quite nice, quite a firm action, but not that positive. Quite well used, but it's resisted wear, so I can see the finger wear marks on it, but the legends haven't started to rub off. And we have got a modern trackpad, quite small, but they were. We've got microphone and speaker. Look at that nice metal to the edge. That's the power connector. What have I got here? Oh, I've got the PCMCIA slots. Let me say that correctly. That's two slots I see, but only seems to have 1 button. I'll try that out later. And that seems to have lost its spring a bit, but okay, that's fine. Along the front, I know we have the cover for the hard drive. It is got screws in it, so but that does pop off like that. So nice and easy, and even with a little pull-out handle. Tiny LEDs. We've got battery, and presumably that means external power. Little wavy line in a circle. And around here, I have removed the battery, but the battery came with it. I'll assume the battery is dead. That's in storage. And a floppy drive, and that all seems mechanically okay. I can't see any damage there. And I think a CD-ROM drive. Wow, look at that, squeezed in below the floppy. So that's definitely laptops moving on to have those sandwiched so small like that. Here we've got a blanking panel. I wonder if that was an optional networking connection maybe. You'll notice on the back, the flap has lost its spring, So that would be nice. I wonder where the spring was. That would be nice to investigate that. Although I see the docking station has got a nice slidey flap there. That's very nice. Lots of thinking out there of how that's going to work. It's interesting they didn't just put the flap there and make this another flap. Utterly conventional inside. We've got serial parallel printer port VGA and the huge docking connector. Now we've got what appears to be PS2. I'll be trying that out later. It says keyboard or mouse. So we've got 16.2 volt, 2.6 amp. Let's see, it doesn't tell you much about the laptop except the model TS30G. Maybe that enables you to remove the CD-ROM drive. Let's give that a go. No, it's all creaking. Let's be gentle and do that later. So let's go straight in and think about testing the laptop. Let me power this up. Got a green LED. Look at that for attention to detail. You get a nice slot. Has anyone ever used that? No, that's a bit of dust. Somebody, you'll put your cable in there. It's very tight. And that's making the power supply creak more than I'd like. Let's not do that. Okay. Let's find the power supply socket, which is there. This is like a 3-pin. This looks a bit Dell-like. I have to see if that's same as the Dell CPI. No, I don't think it is. It's got little grooves on top. And here we go. So do we have LEDs? We do. We've got the mains LED. Of course, no battery. I'll remove the battery. That's next door. And here we go. Let me see. Let me get the glare out of the screen. Let me turn off the light and let's try out the laptop. Right, I can hear, I think I can hear the hard drive spinning. And what have we got? We've got 80 meg. Look at that, 256K. System CMOS checksum bad. Of course it is. We haven't stumbled across a BIOS battery yet. Look, we've got, is that showing on the camera? We've got hard drive indicator. We've got number lock. Where's number lock? I want to have a go. That's function number lock. Oh, look at that. Number lock on off. Caps lock on off. We've got a screen here. Not sure, that looks like a CRT. That might imply red external, which we're not. Let's have a look in the BIOS. F2 for setup. Checksum is invalid. Yes, of course. Checksum is invalid. Continue. So this looks very even on this, to me. There is a slight dark area, but that is actually to do with the angle, I think, of viewing. So there's the date. Let's go with that. Oh, that's a good clue. So we are 1988. No, that's not a good clue. So it's definitely not 1988. Let me see if I can change that. So change values is plus minus. I seem to be able to do a minus. When I do one plus, I do see it flicker, but it won't let me change it. Maybe the... No, it is flickering. How strange. You have to go backwards. And I only seem to be able to go backwards in time. Oh, it's wrapped round. Oh, I want to know what year it wrapped round to. 2030. Okay, so this is 2025. I've got 5 more years of good use from this laptop. So let's go 1997. I wonder how you get to time. Or is all of the keyboard working? Enter submenu, select item, select menu. I do think we have keyboard issues. Oh. Save changes and exit. I think we have keyboard issues. Let's see what happens next. Graph 40K SVGA BIOS. So we've got 80 meg. Got a nice summary there. Windows 98. So we had designed for Windows Microsoft 95. Of course, it would have been in use for a good few years. So we're booting from the original hard drive. Windows is updated. Let's try the trackpad. Oh, that's very responsive actually. Can I tap it? Or I can. I can tap the trackpad. Okay, let's accept that. So I've got a Disney background. That's interesting. Got some audio. Here we go. Here's the joy of old hard drives. It got there in the end. So what I want to do, here we go. There's something starting on the side. Office, wow. There we go. And now it's going to redraw the background. What's the background going to be? Come on, hard drive. Right, so, it's a different Disney background now. So, I'd like to test the keyboard. Start a new document. What will that do? Let's go blank Word document. Word for Windows 95. So we're not onto Word 6. I know we're past Word 6. Okay, keyboard test. 845. That's interesting, that's okay. Now in the... Right, so we are missing. So we're missing cursor down. Sadly, we're missing the bottom row of the cursor keys. That could be very difficult. What about other keys? Have we got Control? I do Control C. The Control works on the basis that it stops. Windows key works. We know the function key works. Does the right click? It does. Maybe there is some damage just to this corner. Now what else caught my eye? Because I think this was in use by a DEC employee. Because we've got a terminal emulator. And I'm very interested to look at the options. Let me see what they might be. So preferences. I'm wondering where we can choose what type of connection. New session. Yeah, here we go. So we got local, serial port. Look at that. So we got options for the serial port. We got baud rate. Now, have we got options for terminal emulation? Emulation setup. Wow. Wow. Look. We've got VT100 up to VT320 or VT star. 7-bit, 8-bit. Oh, lots of options. Language setup. Data scope. Non-printables, exclude transmission. Okay, this is looking quite powerful. So where has this application come from? Have we got terminal emulation by digital? So we've got a digital terminal emulation application. Okay, that's cool. So this laptop is in very good condition, but I think it is essential that we investigate a few things. Firstly, the BIOS battery could possibly be a VARTA unit, could be leaking. There could be leaking caps. But these laptops are quite expensive, and I found them all to have good capacitors in them. And finally, it probably needs a clean. It's okay, but it's not brilliant. Today's sliding magazine to put the laptop in is Your Home, which they claim at only $2.99 is the best value. Okay, so let's put that on there. I'll have to remember that this back panel slides up. So as usual, I think we'll take apart the obvious panels and remove the obvious parts. Now I know that this hard drive has come out because I have taken a copy of the hard drive already. So let's start with this. Now I've not found broken plastic on this. I'm sure at the end of this there will either be broken plastic I've found or more likely that I've caused. But that's the way it goes. And I'm going to be super gentle with this hard drive. Again, decisions to make. Do I preserve this? Replace it with an SSD? Well, probably an SD card. So this is a 2 gig, so a small SD card. Look at that, May 97. By the way, I didn't pay a lot for this laptop. I think it was £60, so maybe $70 US dollars. And had been looking for a digital one. I don't think they're necessarily desirable. In the States, I think they are a lot more available. But for me, it was just that bit of rarity value. And something of interest, being a company that doesn't really exist as such anymore, but was a big thing in computing. Okay, we've got 2 memory sticks, so I presume they're 40 meg each. Oh look, there's no keying across the top. I don't really recognise this page. It says made in UK, so I wonder if these tabs come out somehow. Oh, look at that. They come forward. And then what do? They lift out. Right. Trying not to prise anything with screwdrivers if I don't have to. And that's revealed 2 screws. So let's remove these. Almost magnetic. There we go. Right. Nice. How is this attached? Oh, I see. It's attached like that. Oh, smelling a little bit mouldy, if I'm honest. Bit of not too bad. I think we're lucky this works. This has been in somewhere slightly damp for a small period of time. You don't want to break all of the keyboard. Do I lift that up? Oh, there we go. So that lifts forward, which is kind of bizarre. And then that just lifts out. Cool. Right, keyboard's separate. There's a million screws at the back, so we could look at that. In terms of can those cursor keys be repaired. Feels more than just these 2 screws could possibly be holding that together. And I don't think these are getting us anywhere. Oh, it did. How bizarre. It's a heatsink. Got a thermal pad. Oh yes, that's it. Does feel tiny bit warm. Look at that, there's a minute heat pipe. Where does that go from and to? Or does that just spread the heat across this plate? Incredible. What was that? Right, he's going here. Let's keep this way up. There is a screw there, let's go for that. Nice. Okay, so trackpad, I think, is released. Right, so we've got the screw here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these do come off. Let's try to find a screwdriver in there. Ah! Do these come off sideways maybe? Let's see, right. Right, got something plastic to help push on this. To see if this slides out. It does not want to. Now, I don't like using WD-40 on things like this, but they do lubricate plastic clips a lot. So, let me face it so that will run down there. And see if I can get some feel it moving. Oh, look at that. So you move it sideways slightly and then lift it up. Wow. So my WD-40 trick has worked, but I have a bit of broken plastic. Well, that was probably inevitable. Well, I can't actually see where that's from. Try to lift up the cover. Come on, cover, you can do it. You can do it. There we go. Right, so how is that looking? So I have broken a clip there. I think this is all inevitable. But it is essential. We have to do this dismantling. Well, the problem is this doesn't help us in removing the top because we need to remove the screen connector. I wonder if we're meant to remove it from the screen side. There's a bit more plastic. I don't want to lift that till I figure out how we disconnect that cable. Well, I also see I have released a available screw cover that is there. Why isn't the CD-ROM coming out? Just needs a bit more persuasion. Ah, there we go. So I've gently levered this while pushing the tab on the base, and that has released this whole section. There we go. So there is the combined floppy. Do not push on this side. Okay, I won't. And CD-ROM drive. So that has released those two. Now, so the front must be clipped on. It is. Yeah, the front is clipped on. Are there any more screws hiding away? That's so tough. There has to be more screws. That's too strong. Gonna have to be the WD-40 trick again. That's all run down nicely in there. It's not budging, and it's so strong down this side. So after totally unreasonable amounts of force, this has come unclipped. I was convinced there were screws. These were so strong, but they are actually clips. In the meantime, this has been released. Unfortunately, although this is okay, this is plastic that surrounds the battery. The clips these go into have broken. I think there's no other way forward than some breakage. But it's still not obvious how the screen is disconnected. Slack in the cable for connecting the screen. So I think I can go ahead and gently lift the screen out of the way. Like that. And we can finish taking these screws off. That screw is off, and that one is off. Why won't that one come out? Do we have another screw here? Let's get one more clip. I think it's one more clip. Oh, that is unreasonable amounts of force being required. Aha! There is another screw. That's very sneaky of you. Digital, yes, lovely. There we go. So you can fold it over like that, and now we have access to the motherboard. Oh, that was just held on by tape. What is that? It's covered in insulating tape to stop it shorting. Possibly just power supply. I'll get a close-up view of those caps later on. Earthing cable. There's the clamp. Keep those by the screws. And let's just pop that out. Okay. Oh my goodness, look at that. I'll get a close up of that. Wow. So let's disconnect the ancillary connector. There we go. So we've got speakers, power button, not much else. Have we disconnected the top and bottom now? Yes, we have. So the bottom section is now free. There's a screw that's come from somewhere. I think that was possibly that one through there. There's a washer here from somewhere. That's a worry. Oh, it was from there. Screws under the processor. Wow. Right, it's the next day and I want to make a little bit of progress just this evening. So I'd like to try and remove the motherboard from the bottom case, get the bottom case washed, particularly of those mould marks. Not sure what they are. At least the smell has definitely gone. There's not any more mould smell. But yes, there are mould marks, I think. These are really tiny jack posts. Look at that, not even full height. Don't think the order matters, but I'll keep them in order. They're all the same tightness. Not very tight. Big screwdriver anyway. And then finally, here is the docking station connector. So this is 6mm. It doesn't feel tight. It seems to do the job. That's very strange. I'm sure these can't be 0.5mm sizes. Is it ready to come out? Wow, look at that. That's a pretty special nut. I don't know where you'd get one of those. Aha. And suddenly it's free. I'm not really sure what was holding that in place. There we go. So let's take a close look at that. So there are these mould marks. I wonder if they'll clean off. I'm going to wash this, so it is better to get things like this separated so that the water doesn't become trapped. Right, so that's come out like that. And this metal back plate that's interesting. Look how kind of scratched that up. I wonder if that was from manufacturing. Look at that. There's actually, those ridges aren't as deep as they look. So now we have the base plate, and I think this is held on with little plastic sort of rivets that are melted down, so I don't think that's going to come off, and that's fine. I see tiny screws here. I see, it just lifts out like that. Wow. Look at that, there is just like one switch above and below. So this whole press mechanism operates one switch with little hinges. Wow, look at that. Wow. Very tight. It's Loctited on. And the other speaker, which I can't work out what side it is. I'm too confused. Again, uses a big screw and a little screw. Who knows why? So look at these speakers. They are fantastic. There is some apparent damage there. Could it be me? I'm not sure. So again, this is a delicate part, but it doesn't feel delicate. It doesn't look obviously broken. I can now clean the WD-40 off and all the years of grime off. I probably will look at changing the thermal pad, because that is just a thin pad on top. Yeah, let me see. I can remove that now. very fragile and broken up. So I'll keep that for sizing. So after the parts having a wash, I've left them to dry for a day to make sure absolutely everything is totally dried, like the little grills in the speakers. That's all dried. Little spots of mould seems to have gone, and the plastic doesn't look perfect, but I think it is probably a bit marked through age, so it's okay. And it certainly doesn't smell of that slight mould anymore. This is the rear panel. It is mysteriously scratched, but it is what it is. That's all fine. And then the base unit, so I did wash it with this metal here, so that's had a day to dry. The marks haven't completely gone, but I think that's fine. I don't want to scrub it or anything. Remember, it definitely went through the hole like that. I think I'll leave that loose. That sits on there like that. And there's a tiny button there. Goes through that hole. And the infrared will plug in somewhere. Now this speaker cable is twisted, so let's untwist the speaker. And these tiny screws are unusual. They're the only tiny size that's of the gold colour. So there's not too many types of screws, but a few different types. The next thing is to build the base back up a little bit. I remember now, this goes, that's the CPU heatsink. So this material has become a bit dirty, but I think that's fine. I think that was sticky and this is just dust that's stuck to it, so there's no point trying to fix that. So I'm pretty confident this went on here, on those pads. Now it covers up those screws. So is that useful? Or should this go in first? Yeah, this should go in first. It just slides in like that. Nice! So these lower ones are for this metal plate. Quick clean of this has not really done very much. It's very strange. So there are two sets of plugs, one for the top, one for the bottom. It seems to be two things connected by little jack posts that wobble, but they won't come out. So I won't force them. That seems slightly loose. No, that's fine. Place the screw in first, so that it can fall under, and then place it back in like that. And then on this side was these two with these large springs, and I guess are thing springs. This went in first. Okay, there is a screw there, which then gets covered by the motherboard, so this must go in first. There we go. So that sits in there, so that must have been these three screws here maybe. those are in, the back's in. What's going on here? So have I just bent that across? Okay. We can do another one in here. It's a good place to have one. Let's place the CPU back on. And the question is, how do I know which way round it went? Because of course it doesn't fit the wrong way. No, it doesn't. I'm hoping this can lay down and reach the VGA. Maybe if I do it like that. Yes, that's cool. It goes in like that. Let's put this back. I think this is just the audio board. Power supply, of course, even though the power supply actually plugs in there. I guess it somehow meanders round to here. So let's lift the VGA cable up a little bit and push the power supply in and down. So temporary heatsink arranged. I've put some heatsink pads on there that I think are equivalent to the original thickness dried up one. So that will do, and then just pop these on top. Here goes. Does it still work? I've forgotten where the LEDs are. Got to turn it on. That drags it out, doesn't it? Right, I can see some LEDs. Heard a pop from the speakers, and let me see, and something on the screen. What a relief. So it's always worth doing that test part way through. Obviously no keyboard. It means I haven't done any damage, haven't stabbed the motherboard too much, and we can carry on with some gentle reassembly, I think. I think that needs a long one. It means I've used a long one where I shouldn't have. Of course, be nice and gentle. Start them off by hand, I think, is the best tip. I think the jack posts are all the same. Right, so the next stage, because I want to put the VGA in before the power supply, which goes before the heatsink, but I'm going to do a battery. So I'll put the VGA through there, and then that can go in the plug. That can fit on there. Power supply in. Oh, that's a shame. We actually do need that for the earthing lead, which I'll just wedge under there. Right, the other thing is, let's take this out. Just to give access. So the battery needs to be removed next. I think I'll leave this laptop without a battery. It's not the sort of laptop I'm going to use very regularly. And I did wonder about replacing it with a socket, but there's not really much space to put one on because the heatsink goes right on top of the the CPU there, not leaving much room, so I think we'll just go without. Okay, a bit more of a struggle than I thought. So there's just the hot glue remaining. And also that is just a bit of plastic with the dirt underneath. Much the same as this sticky plastic has just attracted lots of dust effectively. So I don't think that is any corrosion. You can see the two connection points, and I've just broken the two connectors off there. I think that will do fine. Now let's measure the battery, and we have 0.3 volts, I think. 0.3 volts. It's actually not bad. Surprising that we have anything at all, isn't it, really? But where I'd got muddled and used that screw there, I've taken that screw out because it turns out that needs to go through there, and that holds it down. So I think this is now ready. I need to remove the infrared again because there's a screw there. So there's a screw there, there and there, holds the case down, and then these 4 screws hold the lid down. Trying not to tension that up. I prepared some buds with silicone grease in. This stuff gets everywhere. And I'm going to rub this on all the plastic pieces that need to clip in. Just to gently lubricate it all going back together. Clip, clip, clip. Next task, put the trackpad back in. In fact, the battery connections are now visible. They are down there, so that would be feasible to maybe get a soldering iron in there if I really wanted to later on. And I think time to place the proper heatsink on now. Whoops, I've disturbed my little squares a bit. Never mind. I'm sure those are flat. Yeah, that's fine. And then this fits on over the top. It appears only to be held in by those 2 very special screws there. Plastic stands off here. There's the heatsink pad. Appears to be a block of aluminium on a block of aluminium. And I should be able to get the keyboard wired through there. I don't think there's anything else to connect. So this just literally drops in. So that slides in there. And the 2 screws go in here. press and gently, not too tight. Keyboard connector isn't exactly what you'd call easily accessible. It's like they missed the hole a bit. So with the digital HiNote all back together, let me have a quick look around. On this machine we did have some Sierra games, but I think they've been uninstalled. But just to hear a bit of the audio, let's start up Laws of the Magic, see what that sounds like. Move the lights out the way, you can see the screen there. I haven't got the CD-ROM, that's a shame, unless this is a cracked one. No. So the only game left will be Space Cadet Table. So that's excellent. We had a few other things on here, but nothing unfortunately of interest, and a lot of things won't load up. So what do we have? QuickTime, Adobe, Photo Deluxe Home Edition. Whoops. Yes, lot is not working. I think it was either networked. What is VTX? Cannot load. Shortcut to Infoman. Cannot load. So I think the most interesting is the VT server with all the options. That will definitely be worth trying to connect up sometime. So what do I think of the machine? Well, I'd say on the servicing it was medium, lots of different screw types, and I got confused. I might have even got some of the screws back the wrong way around. And also the heatsink being under the keyboard and being a bit awkward, and you having to remove the keyboard or remove the heatsink to get the keyboard out. But otherwise, a very nice compact machine, nicely laid out, reasonably easy to get to, but just a little bit awkward to service. I don't think very field serviceable. Another thing was the screws at the back under these caps, and then clips on the front, so it's a bit half screws, half clips. So not perfect, but nonetheless a nice form factor. I like the LCD up the side, and I like the overall style and look of the machine. Also, the CD-ROM doesn't work, doesn't read a disc, but I think that's probably a standard replaceable unit. So otherwise, very pleased. Thank you for watching.